Thank you very much for joining us and welcome. By way of introduction, my name is Bob Hammersley. By day, I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of the St. Thomas and District Chamber of Commerce. But for this purpose, I'm donating my time to assist the folks at Rogers and produce something that we hope goes a little bit beyond what is the day-to-day media scope of the upcoming provincial election campaign. We're here to be local. We want to meet local people. We want to talk about local issues, and we've brought the local candidates all together, and we thank them for agreeing to be with us. Each candidate will be given 60 seconds to introduce themselves, and then we'll adjourn to a panel of questioners from media representatives, and 4 of them are with us today. We'll finish our program toward the end of 60 minutes with a final wrap-up remark allotment to each one of the candidates. So let's get into it. Opening remarks first, I'm going to call on the incumbent member for Elgin-Middlesex-London, Jeff Urick, for the Progressive Conservative. Jeff, welcome to the program, and let's hear from you.
Good afternoon, media. Thanks very much for allowing us to be here to discuss the issues. I'm Jeff Urick. I am the incumbent MPP for Elgin-Middlesex-London. I'm the PC candidate. I'm a pharmacist, co-owner of Urick Pharmacy. I'm a community volunteer, but more importantly, I'm married to my wife Jen, and I'm father to my beautiful daughter Maggie. And whether I was in my pharmacy volunteering or as an MPP, I was very grassroots in my approach. I listened. Although in opposition and not involved in key government decisions, I represented everyone's issues in our riding and brought them to the floor of the legislature. I even hand-delivered letters to the ministers in order to ensure better success. My staff at my constituency office often took care of clients as they came in and made sure their needs were met. I would like to continue as a representative of this riding and also as a strong advocate for the people of Elgin-Middlesex-London. What I did hear, though, over the past few years, that people are tired of taxes.
Jeff, I'll have to stop you there. Your 60 seconds goes rather rapidly, and that's it.
Thank you.
You can see exactly how quickly 60 seconds can expire. We'll turn now to the Liberal candidate for Elgin-Middlesex-London. Serge Lavoie is the first time, I believe, in local politics here. Serge, welcome to the podium.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're right, first time. I'll start by saying I'm a dad of 3 daughters and 3 granddaughters, happily married to Debbie, a book editor. I've been in this community for 14 years, but for 35 years I've been doing economic development work in various capacities around Canada. And I'm going to start by saying that we're all going to have access to tons of binders full of information, facts, and numbers, but I think this campaign boils down to something much more fundamental, and it's what attracted me to becoming the candidate for the Liberals. I think it's all about vision and tone. I think the vision is all about reinvesting in our communities, in our people, in our infrastructure, in our industries. And then the tone is all about being positive, not blaming sectors of society for problems, but by coming together and finding solutions that will build the economy we're looking for. I think that's what we're going to be talking about, not only in this hour, but in the coming month ahead.
Serge, I'll have to jump in and say that's your 60 seconds too. Let's move now to the NDP candidate for Elgin-Middlesex-London. Kathy Cornish has been with us on this podium once before. Welcome back.
Thank you, Bob. Hello to the media. My name is Kathy Cornish. You may remember me from the 2011 provincial election when we doubled our NDP vote results. Once again, I'm running to be your new Democrat MPP. Here in Elgin-Middlesex-London and in the communities just like ours across the province, people are deciding it's time for new leadership. It's time for a government that stands up for middle-class families. I will work with Andrea Horvath and the Ontario NDP team to protect your tax dollars, invest in your priorities, create jobs, and make life more affordable. New Democrats have a plan. We will create and protect local jobs by rewarding job creators with targeted tax credits, cutting small business taxes, getting job-killing hydro rates under control. We will make life more affordable for your families by finding efficiencies in the hydro system and passing the savings back to you.
Kathy, there's your 60 seconds.
Thank you very much, and thank you.
Let's move now to another returning face to the Elgin-Middlesex-London political stage. Running for the Green Party is John Fisher. John, welcome back.
Yes, this is my 6th time, actually, 3 federal, and I'm glad to be back and welcome everyone to the program. This is really why I am still a Green. I'm quoting from an email received during the last time out. I'm one of those who has not voted all my life, and I am 40 years old. For some reason, the Green Party has caught my attention. I watched you on the debate, and I feel I really need a change. I would like to a sign. My husband is open for the Conservatives and has a big sign in our front yard. I would like a green sign. For the very first time in my life, I will vote. I will vote for my girls and for my grandchildren's future. And I would just like to say the Greens have social and we have social and financial problems, and the Greens are thinking a little bit outside the box with down-to-earth solutions. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Actually, 54 seconds. Thanks for being under the wire. Gives me a couple of seconds to introduce the Freedom Party candidate for Elgin-Middlesex-London, Clare Maloney. Clare, welcome to our program, and it's your turn now.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for the people of Elgin-Middlesex-London. I'm Clare Maloney, and for those of you who may only know me through the London Free Press, I am not a girl. I'm a man. I was born a man. I'll die a man, and I was a man in between all those dates. I got involved with the Freedom Party because I think it's the only party that is serious about eradicating debt. We've had 40 years of NDP, Conservative and Liberal rule, and they have left a huge debt for our children and our grandchildren to take care of. I was a councillor for the Township of Malahide for 3 years. Right now I'm the Deputy Grand Knight in Our Lady of Sorrows Parish at Elmer, Ontario. I have 2 grown children who both live in Toronto. I successfully opened a business with my ex-wife, Bella Boutique in Elmer, and now that we have 2 shops in London. I've worked for Canada Post as a letter carrier for 36 years, so I do know a lot of people, and I talk to them all the time to know what their needs are. I hope that you will think about me in the future and the Freedom Party.
I'm sorry, I'll jump in and say your time is up too.
That's okay.
60 seconds is indeed a brief time, but you'll be thankful, I hope, to know that we have about 42 minutes in our schedule now to turn the program over to hear from folks who work with the candidates and work with our community on a daily basis. 4 representatives of St. Thomas Elgin Media are with us today. From the St. Thomas Times-Journal, Ben Forrest is here. From MyFM 94.1, News Director Andrew Buttigieg. Representing the Aylmer Express, Craig Bradford, and from the St. Thomas Elgin Weekly News, Jesse Knockert. First up, I'm going to turn to the Times-Journal and Ben Forrest. Ben, if you would approach the podium. Each one of the media reps will have the opportunity to put 2 questions to any or each of the candidates. How they direct them is totally up to them. But once the 2 questions are gone, we'll ask them to be seated and we'll turn the mic over to the next media rep. So Ben, the next couple of questions are all yours.
Okay, this is a question for all the candidates, very simple, just to start us off. What is the most important issue for you in this election, and if elected, what would you do to ensure it's properly addressed? What's the most important issue? Whoever, it's to all of you, so if you, yeah.
Thank you for the question. I believe in Elgin-Middlesex-London, the most important issue that we need to deal with is jobs. And I'm here to tell you that the NDP has a very solid plan to ensure that employers are rewarded for creating jobs and for sustainability. Thank you.
Claire?
From what I've talked to people, the biggest issue is trust. I think they've lost trust in our leaders. I know their individual representatives, such as Jeff, is well respected. They do a good job, but we just stop believing in what the leaders are telling us. It's all party politics, and we need to get back to a system, a leader whom you can trust, and that would be Paul McKeever.
Following the order of the chairs, we'll go to John this time.
I would put jobs at the top of the list as well, but I would also link it to the environment. We are using up nature's bank account, and we need to be very careful about that, whether it's frogs, butterflies, or birds. We've got to pay for what we take from nature in proportion to what we're taking, and I think that's very important to a link between the two.
Serge Lavoie for the Liberals.
Well, you're going to hear me use this word a lot. It's investment, investment, investment. It leads to jobs. It leads to building capacity in our community to strengthen it over the years. It leads to new opportunities. It leads to the kind of, good future for our elderly that they expect. but it's a range of issues, but it all requires investment from industry and from government. So that's my theme for this campaign, investment.
And the last word goes to the Progressive Conservatives and Jeff Urich.
Thanks, Bob. From what I'm hearing at the doors and what I'm hearing over the last 2.5 years, it's a mix. It's jobs and our energy. Our energy has become unaffordable, that we can't have business coming in to create jobs in our area, nor people at home are able to afford their energy and are at risk of losing their houses, and life has just become unaffordable. The two are equally together, jobs and energy, and we have to conquer both at the same time.
Okay, reverse order for answers this time. Ben, question 2 from you.
Okay, Claire, you sort of touched on this, but I wanted to talk about, well, just the question. Voter turnout in the last election was at a record low. It was only 49.2% of eligible voters went to the polls. What will you do to address voter apathy in this election campaign? What compelling reason can you give people to cast a vote? And that's a question for all the candidates, but Claire, if you
well, you know, that's a tough one. All I can do is talk to the people who I run into. We, as the Freedom Party is not a big party. We don't have a lot of money to spend. We can't. So it's really hard for us to get our message out. We have websites. We have social media. We're very good at that. Hopefully, that's the way. You know, people. I have a sense this time that people are at wit's end. Like economically, taxes are high and electricity costs are going through the roof. So I think that's what's going to bring people out this time, is they're just fed up. I have talked to people who are fed up with everybody, and they're not even going to vote. Now that to me is a sad state. And all I can do is hope that they come out.
We'll keep following the order of the chairs and eventually rotate, but John Fisher is next then.
That's the same question?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the Green Party is certainly in favor of proportional representation. We've got to, we can't have a minority number ruling with the regime ruling in Toronto. And secondly, I think a lot of people are starting to think about their kids' futures and where is it heading with the degrading of the environment and so forth, whether it's water or whatever. That's where we really got to start, and I think a lot of the young people are in tune with that.
Serge Lavoie, please.
I think we have to start talking to kids about the stuff that matters to them. At home, I've got an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. They don't feel engaged in politics because we don't seem to be talking their language. We're not talking about building for the future. I mean, they're 18 and 20. They want to know what we're going to do to help them build a future. Instead, we seem to be sort of down in the mud talking about stuff that's happened in the past. I think if we paint a positive vision, get them engaged in the issues, show them that they have a role to play in building their own futures, we can go a long way to re-engaging them in the political process. So really comes back to the first theme, vision and tone.
Jeff Urich, please.
Well, it's not surprising that people are becoming apathetic to politics. You look what's happened in the last 2.5 years at Queen's Park. We've had a government that spent $1.1 billion in order to save 5 seats, and then deleted emails. And we've had 2 OPP investigations ongoing, unprecedented in this time. And at the same time, the government was supported by the third party continuing through the budget process. So people have lost faith that politicians are only in it for themselves. And our party's brought forth a plan that's put forward that's actually going to tell people exactly what we're going to do if we're voted in as a government. There's no hidden costs, there's no hidden fees, there's no hidden taxes. It's a plan laid out for them. We're going to follow step by step, and people can believe it. What's written, we're going to follow.
Thank you, Jeff. And the last word this time to Kathy Cornish.
Thank you very much for the question. Andrew Horvath and the NDP have already attempted to pull accountability into politics. No matter who the governing party is, there needs to be accountability. And that's exactly what the NDP has been trying to do with the Financial Accountability Office, to be clear with Ontarians exactly what is being spent. We're also going to look at the Minister of Savings and Accountability, which will be proactively looking at savings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ben Forrest from the Times-Journal, we thank you. We'll turn the medium over to radio this time and welcome Andrew Buttigieg from MyFM 94.1 to the podium. Andrew, 2 questions from you. You may direct them any way you see fit.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hello to all the candidates. Good luck as well. My 2 questions are about healthcare to start off with. I will start with the lack of, I mean, I'm a huge supporter of what's happening at the hospital with the expansion there. But I've had citizens come up to me and they want this question asked, and that is, what are we doing about local doctors? There's senior doctors that are retiring. There are doctors that are passing away, you know, and there's doctors that are moving out of town. So my first question is, what is your plan to get local doctors for each family here in Elgin-Middlesex-London?
And that goes to all candidates.
Yes.
So I think, in fairness, it's John Fisher's turn at bat first time this time.
Well, on that one, I mean, all the communities, we've had problems with doctors in the west of Elgin County. But I guess maybe part of the answer is to have an environment here that the doctor is going to like, and whether that and that depends on the doctor, of course. But keeping it short this time. I guess we've got to make ourselves known and have an environment here that's going to attract them.
Thank you.
Serge Lavoie on doctors, please.
I think there's a shared responsibility here. Like all professionals, doctors want to work in a place where they've got the latest tools. We're about to build that here in town. We're building a state-of-the-art facility at Steg, and I think that's really positive in terms of physician recruitment. But they also, as was said, want to live in a good community. We have a good community. We need to keep building on that, build it into something that people want to raise families in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a role for the municipality, there's a role for the province.
Jeff, big question on medical issues for you.
Thank you, Bob. I remember the last doctor shortage when I was pharmacist down the street here. It was terrible for patients looking for prescriptions. Hey, I started out, as soon as I got elected, Dutton Township contacted me that they're short a doctor, and I went to work with them, met with Health Force Ontario, and then Rodney lost their doctor, Dr. Tenke. We lost 2 doctors last year in St. Thomas. Dr. Washburn's retiring next month. And if you look at the doctors across the area, there's plenty that are close to retirement. So I've talked to the University of Western Ontario about how to get more doctors here. I've talked to Health Force in Ontario. A key problem is the Liberal government has changed the RIO score, which allows for government to step in to help municipalities attract doctors. We no longer qualify. Dutton doesn't qualify. Elmer doesn't qualify. So we need to relook and push to get that RIO score changed so the provincial government can actually help us attract the doctors. We need to open up more intern places so that we have more doctors coming to our area.
Thank you.
Kathy Cornish, please.
Thank you for the question.
No.
The NDP, in our platform, is aimed to ensure a bright future for our rural Ontario. We have intentions of forgiving the debt of 200 graduating medical students who go to work in the underserviced communities of rural Ontario. We need to bring our doctors into the area, and by forgiving the debt that they will be starting out their careers with is one way of doing so.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
And Clare Maloney, your turn at last at bat.
Well, we'll give this one a shot. I'm going to propose something very radical, and that's a 2-tier healthcare system. One that would allow doctors to operate in a free enterprise environment where they could control their costs and the people coming in. It's worked in other jurisdictions in Europe, and it's just a system that we should have gone 2 years ago.
Thank you.
Andrew, second question for you.
If you don't mind, I would like to direct this just to 2 of them.
You may
Is that
do
okay?
anything
This
you
one is
so
to,
choose.
This one's to the NDP and to the Conservatives, or the PCs. I'll start
And
with
who do you want first?
Kathy, please, if you don't mind. Kathy, a big story in the past year with Jeff has been Ryan's Law and the asthma child out west. Sorry, out east, my apologies. A little bit about the story, or the reports were that the NDP were holding that bill up. If Elgin-Middlesex-London constituents were to vote you in, would you bring that bill back?
Let me explain to you to start with. I am asthmatic, so I totally understand, and have been since childhood. I totally understand the potential ramifications of not having the medication. I think what people may not understand is that the issue that was raised by the NDP was actually raised by someone from the nursing background, and her concerns were brought forward during committee. If the people during the committee had have raised the concerns and had have allowed for adjustments to the actual bill, I would suggest to you that the bill could have been passed. Am I and the NDP serious about taking care of our children and in the schools? Absolutely, and I would do everything that I possibly can to make sure that our children have the medication, whether they're at school or at home, to have a good, healthy life. Thank you for the question.
Appreciate it.
Jeff Urich, please.
Thank you, Andrew. I just want to clarify some of the things that Kathy said, because I was sitting there at committee. First of all, the NDP members were starting to re-debate the bill and were redirected by the chair. And they did call for a 5-minute recess to get the wording right on healthcare provider. However, they came back 20 minutes later. They clearly ate up the time. I would look forward, and hopefully we can go forward and bring this bill back. That's my entire plan. It's either coming back as my private member's bill if I'm elected. If we're in government and I'm unable to bring that forward, Tim Hudak has said he'll bring it back as a government bill. We need to get this bill passed. We need to look after our kids. It's a simple bill. Let the kids have their inhaler. That's what I'm working for. It's too bad politics got in the way of a good bill. We need to stop that at Queen's Park, and I'm going to be part of that agent to make sure that change occurs.
Thank you, Jeff.
Andrew Buttigieg from IFM, thank you. And next turn of the microphone, we'll turn to Craig Bradford from the Aylmer Express. Craig, 2 questions that may be directed any which way you so choose.
Okay, this one is for all candidates. What are your parties planning to do to help our farmers and rural Ontario residents? And please give specific examples.
Okay, first response this time would fall to Serge Lavoie.
I'm going to start by asking what the question was again. Specifically, what were you looking for?
What are your parties planning to do to help our farmers and rural Ontario residents? And I would like specific examples.
Right. Well, as you know, rural Ontario is really important to this government. Kathleen Wynne herself took on the role of Agriculture Minister. She split agriculture affairs from rural affairs because there's a deep recognition that there's a difference between the needs. I want to see this government bring a variety of things to the table. Lots more in the way of local food programs, assistance in making processing available in southwestern Ontario so that we can actually process our own food, get the value add and the extra margin in that. I would like to see us go to rural broadband so that every farm has access to super high-speed internet, because farms are no different than businesses. They need those kinds of tools to work with. I would like to look into the whole area of access to natural gas infrastructure. It's high time that the 80% of Ontario that doesn't have access to natural gas should have, so that our costs can go down on farm. I think there needs to be a lot more done in terms of taking the pressure off the selling of agricultural land, because of course our farmers have their futures tied up in the value of their land. There has to be a way to make agriculture more attractive in future, so it's less attractive to sell the land. So overall, I'd like to see a lot more emphasis on making agriculture attractive and giving it all the tools that we expect to see in larger centers.
Thank you, Serge. Next in order is the Progressive Conservatives, Jeff Urich.
Thanks, Bob. Agriculture is very important to the PC caucus. Obviously, most of our members come from rural Ontario. We're going to be definitely looking at reducing red tape. It's in our platform to reduce red tape by 30%. And main, so through agriculture, we're going to have a one-window access for farmers to go to the OMAFRA. Instead of having to go to the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources, they'll deal through OMAFRA. One of the big things we're actually going to tackle is energy rates. Biggest thing I hear from farmers is energy is too expensive. We have an energy plan that will make energy more affordable. And unlike the Liberal government, which said they're getting rid of the debt retirement charge, however, farmers still have to pay that until 2019. We're going to get rid of the debt retirement charge for everybody. We're not going to let small businesses and farmers have to continue to pay that charge. We're also going to bring back horse raking. We're going to return the slots at racetrack program, which the Liberal government ended, destroyed horse racing, and unfortunately they were supported by the NDP in the last session. We're going to bring it back so that we can have a vibrant agriculture society. And for municipalities in rural Ontario, we're going to all give a piece of the gas tax, whether or not they have transportation or not, so that they can use it in their own infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We turn now to the NDP's candidate, Kathy Cornish.
Thank you again for the question. Our platform is aimed at ensuring a bright future for rural Ontario. To quote Andrea, "We can send a message to young people that they have a future in farming by protecting rural schools, providing more doctors, connecting high-speed internet, and investing in apprenticeships to open gateways to sustainable careers." Some of the things that the NDP will be doing for rural Ontario: we will make sure that rural employers will be eligible for our training tax credit to help them invest in Ontario agricultural workers. We will review the regulatory barriers that put Ontario farmers at a competitive disadvantage. We will fund the planned expansion of the risk management program to include cattle, sheep, pork, and veal, and horticultural. We will create legislation to ensure that public money is spent on local produce, to ensure that it's sourced from Ontario farmers. And we will forgive the debt, as I had mentioned earlier, of the 200 doctors. And we will also work with the LCBO to guarantee more shelf space in independently produced Ontario wines and increase the Ontario grape content in cellared Canada wines. The other thing that I also want to mention, as my friend Jeff York did, is that the NDP is also very serious about the hydro and the costs put forward to our rural communities. The NDP will eliminate the waste in the hydro sector to make it very affordable for farming communities, and we will review the regulatory barriers that put Ontario farmers at the competitive disadvantage. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Kathy. The question is about agriculture and specific issues. We'll turn to the Freedom Party and Clare Maloney.
Several of the other candidates have mentioned what I would mention. Farmers do need natural gas pipelines down their roads. The price of energy is so high now, again, because of the wind turbines, which produce energy at 8 times the cost of conventional energy. These turbines are a blight on the countryside, and they take good farmland away from farms. The same with some of the solar arrays that we have. I've seen an entire farm covered in panels in my township. This is not good for the future. This land is taken out of production. It doesn't come back. And on top of that, the energy costs 3 or 4 times what conventional energy is. I would echo a bit what Kathy said about the wine industry. The Freedom Party would open beer and wine to be sold in corner stores to compete with the LCBO, not instead of the LCBO, and that would make more opportunities for fruit and wine and grape growers in Ontario.
And the last word on this one to the Green Party and John Fisher.
First, we would reduce barriers between provinces. There's a lot of trade barriers there that could be eliminated. But one of the big ones is the urban sprawl. And that is largely due to an upside-down tax system that rewards speculation and keeps inner-city places, street-level car parks and so forth, which just encourages people to sprawl farther and farther out in what they think is cheaper land. So urban sprawl is a big one. Another one would be to remove taxes from wetlands and the kinds of land use in rural areas that are being preserved for society at large, and therefore why is a farmer being penalized for something that the whole society is benefiting from? So those would be 3. But in terms of taxes, I mean, it's kind of ironical that the taxes that the other parties want to remove, they put on them in the first place. I mean, it just seems to be an oxymoron. You know, if you're putting these taxes on, then why are they so bad now?
Craig Bradford from the Aylmer Express is at the podium with question number 2 now.
Now for a question I hope that you don't have a prepared answer for and aren't just reading from a platform document or memorized platform document. Why are you running in this election? Please keep your answers brief, because I've monopolized a lot of time so far.
First response goes to the Progressive Conservatives and Jeff Urich at this point.
Sure, throw a tough one at me there, Craig. No, I'm running same reasons why I ran before. I want to make a better life for my daughter and her generation going forward. And the best way to do that is, of course, to ensure that our debt and deficit are under control. Our province is not going to grow. They're not going to have a future without getting our spending in line and ensuring that the services will be there for the people down the road. And unfortunately, we're heading in the wrong direction. My parents are in their 80s. I want to make sure they have proper health care, which it's tough to do nowadays. There's so many reasons I'm running for this, but I enjoy representing the people. I'm a strong advocate for the people of this riding, and I make sure that our voice is heard on the floor of the legislature every day that I'm there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. To Kathy Cornish, why are you here?
Let me explain for 25 years I worked at Timken down the street here on Talbot. Through my unionism, and I've learned how much government really plays a part in our every single day life, whether it be brushing my teeth, whether it be walking down the street. And it was because of that activism that I really started to learn what are the opportunities to make changes as a regular person. You don't have to have any great education, you just need to be informed, and I feel that my heart is in it for the right reasons. I want to make change, I want to see change, and to be very honest, I'm with the NDP because they truly speak to who I am as a regular type of person. I think it's very important, and I wish more people would become involved and at least talk about the issues that are affecting every single one of us. Thank you for your question.
And let's turn now to Clare Maloney.
Great question. I was inspired by Paul McKeever when I met him. I voted every party under the sun since I was 18 years old, and I've gotten totally frustrated by all the promises that don't seem to be kept. And then the nanny state situation came up. I don't want to be told how to brush my teeth. I don't want to be told what to eat or or that I have to put calories on my menu. I just want to have government out of my face, and I want and the Freedom Party was the one that inspired me to that point, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Thank you.
John Fisher, how about you?
Well, I've been 15 years in local politics and 35 years as a teacher, and this is my 6th time out. This time I've got a little interest in public service, and I'm really concerned on the environmental level. As I said, the bees, the frogs, these are symbols of what's happening, and to correct that, I also believe there's an economic system which is this one we have now is largely upside down. We've got to sort of pay for our space here on Earth, and I think that the system should be linked to that. So I really feel I felt that most of my life, and this is why I'm here today.
And Serge Lavoie, the last word on this one is yours.
Well, like everybody, I want a better life for my kids, my daughters, and my grandchildren. It's what public service is all about. As to why I'm joining now in the fray, it's because for the last 5 years of my 35-year career, I've been advocating with government in Southwestern Ontario to help transition the economy of Southwestern Ontario. There's so much potential here, and we can build a better future with the right investments. I have to tell you that when this budget came along from the Liberals, it resonated so clearly with everything that we've been saying to government for the last 5 years in the Southwest Economic Alliance. And the flip side of that is that I'm deathly afraid of the vision coming forward from the PCs, one that is looking at cutting investments at the very time when we need them, cutting employment at the very time when people need jobs and paychecks. I lived through the Harris years in the social service sector. I saw how that set us back by years and years and years, and I frankly didn't want to live that again. I didn't want to live through it again. So I feel that this is the time in my life when I got to step up to the plate and communicate to people what it is I believe in.
Thank you kindly, and thank you, Craig.
Thank you all.
We have 4 media panelists with us today, and we're about to meet our 4th panelist at this point. From the St. Thomas Elgin Weekly News, Jesse Knockert. Jesse, it's your turn to have 2 questions any way you want them.
Great, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. So I'd like to start off with a question for all the candidates. My questions are related to energy. And so Ontarians are paying some of the highest hydro rates in Canada. I was wondering if you could address what you think, what kind of energy plan the province needs.
So, keeping with our pre-established order of response, I believe we're back to hearing from Kathy Cornish first.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The NDP has a solid plan in place. To start with, we have to stop the waste. Currently, we have 4 energy organizations that overlap, and the NDP will streamline those 4 agencies and stop the waste. We will also look at a $100 rebate, and we will also look at taking the HST off of home hydro, off the provincial portion of your hydro bill. Thank you.
Clare Maloney, please.
You know, a lot of Band-Aid solutions. Right now, at one time, Ontario relied on natural gas, it relied on coal, and it relied on nuclear and hydro. So nuclear is very expensive, so we cannot go that way. It's also very dangerous. But we have lots of natural gas, we have lots of coal. The technology now in burning coal is clean and doesn't produce anything that's, you know, it's not the cleanest, but it's something we can live with because it will produce electricity at an affordable rate, which will allow our manufacturing to get back in business again. We would open up to free enterprise. We can't have government control and all these different charges that they put on your energy bill. Just make it one bill and then simplify the whole system.
John Fisher from the Greens, please.
The Green Party believes in a full cost accounting, that all costs should be in the price of a product so we can know what we've got. And that is not the case with energy at the moment. There's roughly 6,000 premature deaths in Ontario from air pollution and so forth. And factors like that are not put into the cost of energy, and they should be. However, one of the big elephants in the energy room is nuclear power, and nobody mentions the subsidies to that particular type of energy. But it is many times the subsidies to all these other forms of energy, even fossil fuels. And the PCs want to eliminate subsidies to wind and power. That's like that in relation to the subsidies to nuclear energy. Darlington is a good example of that. So those are some of the things that could certainly be corrected.
Thank you. John, to Serge Lavana.
Well, the issue is that, of course, none of us wants to pay more for energy than we're paying now. But truly, it does cost money to generate electricity. There have been tens of billions invested over the last 10 years in rebuilding the grid, moving away from coal energy, moving towards natural energy sources, basically making sure that the system is reliable and safe and clean. We all wanted that at some point, but at some point we also hoped that we could do all that stuff for nothing, and you can't. Having said that, our rates may be some of the highest in North America, but they're not the highest. And our immediate competitors in Michigan and New York and even Alberta are enjoying rates comparable to our own. So we're in the band. I don't believe that our energy rates at present or in the next few years are going to make us uncompetitive. And I think we have to look for solutions that simply address the needs of those who don't have the capacity to pay the higher rates. Target those solutions. Frankly, I'm not a rich man, but I don't need a 10% off my hydro bill. It should be given to someone who needs it. And by being strategic and making sure that everybody's paying their fair share, we can continue to afford the energy that we've got, that we rely on, and that is generated in a really clean and efficient way.
And the last word on this question on energy to Jeff Hurick.
Thank you, Bob. I'd just like to clarify with what Serge just said. When you factor in the global adjustment charge, which is on many businesses' energy bills, we do have the highest energy cost in the continent. What I got to say about the NDP plan that they're bringing forward is the $100 credit in the HST comes from somewhere. That's coming from general revenues, which will affect our spending on health care and education. So those are just shell game moving around. The PC party actually has a plan. The Liberal plan has a 40% increase within the next 4 years. 50% of that increase comes from green energy subsidies. So we're going to stop the subsidies to wind and solar. No more new contracts. The older contracts are going to stay because you can't end them. They're written in contract. You gotta accept them. But the new ones will be gone. We're going to import energy that we need from Quebec and Manitoba. Quebec just sold energy to Vermont for 20 years at 5.8 cents a kilowatt hour, half the price of, or third of the price of wind energy. We're going to invest in hydroelectric and natural gas. Those are cheap, clean, efficient energies that we can use to broaden our base. And we're going to get rid of the debt retirement charge. Unfortunately, the Liberal government again wants to charge it to businesses and farmers. The NDP's plan doesn't affect businesses. Our plan on energy affects residents and businesses so that we can create an environment for people to invest, people to live affordably, and jobs to come back to our province. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jesse, it's one more question from you.
All right. I originally had a second question, which was going to be related to wind and solar subsidies, but I think that's already been addressed in some of your answers, so I'll move on to something else. Let's see. So I know that the Green Party leader has said that his party plans to save money by merging Ontario's school boards, public and Catholic, into a single system. I was wondering if I could get your reactions to that kind of an idea, what you think it would mean for the province.
And first response, I believe, would fall to Clare Maloney this time. Clare, education we turn to.
You're going to have a battle with that one.
Very
Quick
concise.
answers are appreciated in the interest of time, but John Fisher now.
Well, I'm glad we're maybe the only party sort of to tackle that particular item. What happened to hospitals? I mean, the hospitals were amalgamated, and I don't think anybody is too upset now about that. And the school system. I mean, the estimated savings is about $1.5 or $6 billion. I mean, you have one building, you have one school or a bus system. I mean, within that system, you can have your differences. You can have your Montessori, you could have the Catholic or whoever can work within that set of infrastructure. And that's where the savings would be. And not only that, you might save a few smaller schools by linking the two systems together and save a school. And then, of course, there's the religious equity. So those are the three main factors there.
Serge Lavoie, please.
Well, full disclosure, I was raised in the Catholic system, so clearly I have some fondness for it. I've yet to see any evidence that there's any major duplication going on by having two systems or even multiple systems. I think we're focused here on the results. These students are going to be schooled somewhere. I don't think that there's a lot of excess capacity in the school system that's caused by having multiple boards. The excess capacity is clearly being caused by a shift in demographics. So I don't think we want to focus on merging them because they're Catholic or Protestant or any other faith. I think we start looking at the efficiencies of our schools because of declining enrollments.
To Jeff Urich for a response on education.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thanks for the question. Don Drummond looked at that particular case, and it wasn't going to do the savings that people are touting that it will have coming forward. What you do have to look at, and I'm going to address a lot of the fear-mongering that's been going on this past week from all the parties involved, is looking at the costs that have gone into the school system. There's $7.8 billion spent more in the system with 250,000 less children in the school system. And what you want to do is tackle the bureaucracy in the school boards. You want to get rid of the superintendents, cut down on administrators, and get rid of those paid consultants. We don't need consultants in our school board system. What you want to do is take the money you do save and put it into education. You want to protect the EAs. We are not cutting EAs. That's all I've heard from the fear-mongering, and it's got to stop. We are not cutting the EAs. In fact, our platform is putting more money to help those kids that need support in the classroom. Thank you.
Kathy Cornish on education, please.
Well, I must say that my understanding is that Tim Hudak and the PCs have already come out very clearly and have announced they will be cutting 100,000 school teachers. So I would be extremely upset to know that Tim Hudak is taking our school system very lightly. I believe we have a bigger issue to deal with through hydro than to worry about trying to amalgamate school boards, and I don't believe that doing that is going to show a savings that we can actually use. Thank you for the question.
And I believe, Claire was the one who started us rapidly with that, so that brings us to the end of Jesse's cycle on two questions. I'm going to ask the indulgence of our media panel and the indulgence of our candidates. Time is running rapidly here, and we're down to minutes. We're going to try as best we can to go through the cycle of media representatives one more time. One question and quick questions if you can. And candidates, if you can be real quick, we can get a lot done. So let me go to Ben Forrest from the St. Thomas Times-Journal, and rapid fire is starting now.
Okay, Serge Lavoie, Clare Maloney, you already spoke to the idea of natural gas, access to natural gas in rural Ontario. For the other three candidates, I'm just wondering where you stand on this issue. It's a major issue for the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. Can you please just give us your views on whether you support bringing improving natural gas access in?
Who do you want to hear from first, Ben?
Cathy Cornish, if you don't mind.
Thank you for the question. The NDP is certainly in favor of getting natural gas to our rural areas. The problem or the concern would be that a plan of that nature is 20 years out. That's not going to help our farmers today, and that's why we feel that by attacking the waste in hydro, we will be able to help our farmers that much more quickly than 20 years out.
Thank you, Kathy. Ben, who else did you wish to hear from this time?
Jeff Urick, could you speak?
Jeff Urick next, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ben. As I said, our province is in debt $280 billion, and we have a $12 billion deficit. It'll be billions and billions of dollars to lay this infrastructure out. And I contacted Union Gas and NRG saying if it's feasible, and they would have to restructure their whole infrastructure to get that. They don't have the capacity to actually fill out those lines to reach those farmers. So there's a huge, huge amount of investment that has to be undertaken. And until we get our books balanced and we get jobs back to this province, we have a roaring economy, we can bring in more tax dollars, then perhaps we can take a look at that. But at this point now, it's unaffordable because of the waste this government has done over the last 10 years.
Anyone else, Ben?
Mr. Fisher, if you could.
John Fisher, please.
Well, natural gas is certainly better than the other fossil fuels, but I think that the concentration on alternate energy, in addition to that, but I agree with what's been said about that as well.
Great, Ben, thank you. I'll turn to Andrew Buttigieg, and I wish we had camera width. We could do a show of hands here, but we're getting down to a couple of minutes left just so we can be fair to all candidates in closing remarks. Andrew?
Okay. Quick question about, on the federal level, Veterans Affairs spent $100,000 on Twitter to get their message out, and this was a story just recently in the news. If elected, and I want to hear as a person, the candidate running, not as the party leader or the party candidate, if elected, how do you plan on getting your messages out to the public here locally in Elgin-Middlesex-London?
In proper order, John Fisher would be first up this time.
Well, in the past, I haven't had much of a team in terms of my campaign, but this time we have a team and young people, and they're coming out, and I certainly would say that all forms of communications are up for grabs there, and we're going to concentrate on that.
Thank you.
Serge Lavoie, how about you?
I started off my life as a reporter in a newspaper that still used lead type. But I'm a big believer in social media. I want that direct communications with everyone that I work with and work for. So you can expect to see lots of Twitter, lots of Facebook, lots of website, lots of direct communication.
Jeff Urick, please.
I follow the same path that I've done. I've done Facebook, I've done Twitter, my website, but most of all, I do roundtables, and I've done 8 town halls throughout this riding, so I get face-to-face and meet with people and have a discussion during the town hall and after.
Cathy Cornish?
Thank you for the question. Very simply, absolutely we need to use social media, particularly if we're looking to reach our youth. That's where you're going to find them. You're not going to necessarily find them at roundtable discussions, but we will find them via Twitter, Facebook, and all those others. Thank you.
And Clare Maloney, the last word here is yours.
Well, Andrew, I made you a friend on Facebook the other day, and I'm going to stop putting political stuff on Facebook. I'm going to put cute little puppy dogs and kitty cats.
Thank you.
Because that's what everybody wants to see on Facebook. Interspersed with the odd political statement, and that's what we use. It's inexpensive, and it does get the message across.
Okay, Andrew, thank you for the question. And to each and every one of our panelists and the candidates, of course, we say thank you. It is rapid time that we move on to closing remarks. And I thank everyone for their indulgence so far, but it's important that we wrap our program to the hour's schedule. I'll turn to Jeff Urick for final remarks to begin closing our program. Jeff?
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, media, very much for coming out tonight. I just want to clarify something. Fear-mongering. It's got to stop this election. We just started. We have 28 days left to go. Kathy, you're wrong. Tim, PC Party, is not firing 100,000 teachers. Never said so. Please don't fear-monger for the rest of the campaign. People in Ontario do not want higher taxes. They want affordable energy. They want to be able to live, raise their family, and have a job. PC Party has a plan put out in front of the public that we're going to follow, which will bring prosperity back to the province and get Ontario working better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll turn to Kathy Cornish now. Producers determined the order here in advance, so it's random rapid.
Very simply, what one may call fear-mongering, the others would call very clear messaging on behalf of the PCs. I'm going to suggest to you that the one thing that we currently need in government, and what people are telling me at the door, is accountability. We need leadership. We don't need political grandstanding from Tim Hudak trying to rip a Band-Aid off because he feels that that's what the public needs. We need true leadership, and that's what we're going to have with the NDP. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It's amazing how the candidates have figured out what 60 seconds is. Serge Lavoie, I'll turn to you for the next response. You have 1 minute.
We have to get rid of gimmicks. Whether the 100,000 are teachers or whether they're anybody else, they represent 100,000 of our friends and neighbors and their families and our community. And we would be outraged if we learned in one day that 100,000 Ford Talbotville plant employees or Sterling truck plant employees were going to lose their jobs overnight. We have to start getting rid of this knee-jerk reaction, plan sensibly, plan sustainably, invest in our communities, and get everyone working together on the same plane.
Thank you, Serge Lavoie. And we'll go to the Green Party this time. And John Fisher, you have 60 seconds.
Trust and integrity are issues in this election. So I would suggest you check out Green Party leader Mike Schreiner at www.gpo.ca. Think big and expect better. Vote Green.
That's a record-breaking close. 18 seconds, John. Thank you. Clare Maloney from the Freedom Party.
Again, trust and honesty is most important. We have a great opportunity now with the baby boomer generation all coming into retirement. That's how you eliminate jobs. Don't take jobs away from people, but let them take them away from themselves as they're ready to go. Let's talk about honesty. Let's talk about the wind turbines. The 20-year life cycle of a wind turbine actually doesn't produce the same amount of energy it takes to actually make a wind turbine. So let's be honest about what's going on in the energy program. Putting pre-kindergarten students in and then having them pay off the cost of that pre-kindergarten when they're 30 years old. Is that what you want to do? Is that we're putting the debt on our kids? And if we want these things now, we can pay for them ourselves now as individuals. Don't expect our children to pay for it in that debt. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clare Maloney. And thank you to all the candidates. You amazed me in taking what I thought was going to be running out of time elements into, gee, now they're turning the producers in my ear saying, you know, you've got a couple of minutes. Is there anything you can do with that? Thanks, producers. I'd like to take a moment and just throw one issue on the floor for a rapid fire. Are we capable of doing a show of hands approach at all, Mr. Producer? No, we're not. Okay, abandon that thought then, folks. Let me try another angle. One thing that I didn't hear mentioned in any of our media questions was the combination issue of debt and deficit. And I'm just going to go quickly and start with Serge Lavoie. Give me the first priority on the issues of debt and deficit.
The first priority is clearly deficit. You've got to get that down. The plan with the Liberals is to get it down by 2017, 2018, and then to begin to pay debt after that.
Jeff Urich, debt and deficit, what about them?
Highly linked. You have to get your deficit to a balance in order to start paying down the debt. Fortunately, Liberals are heading in the wrong direction. Their deficit's growing with expectations they'd balance the budget. It's not going to happen. PC Party will balance the deficit in 2 years and get paying down this debt so we can have services in our province.
Thank you. Kathy Cornish, let's hear from you on debt and deficit.
Thank you for the question. Very simply, you need jobs. In order to pull down the debt, you need to have people working. The NDP will certainly put people to work, and we will get people working a whole lot quicker. We will also stop the waste and the scandals that we are currently facing in the government, and by doing so, we will also bring down the debt by 2018. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. Clare Maloney, what about you? Debt and deficit, how about them?
Well, by allowing free enterprise to work unfettered, you will have more people working, and that will be a great way to that. 87% of the budget right now is tied up in healthcare, education, the Ministry of College and Trades, which is another big issue, by the way, and in interest payments. So we have $11 billion a year in interest payments, which is basically what the deficit is this year. So by putting people to work the free enterprise way, and you have to tackle the elephant in the room. I'm afraid to say you can't just cherry pick the other 13% of the total cost of government and say you're going to get rid of the debt or the deficit.
And John Fisher from the Greens, I'll turn to you for the last word on debt and deficit.
Again, I agree with Kathy on this one. You've got to have jobs, industry, and so forth. But to do that, you've got to encourage a better use, a wiser use of our base, which are our natural resources. So I say pay for what you take, which is going to encourage use, not what you make.
Thank you kindly. Our hour has just about come to a close. I, on behalf of the entire team in the production studio today, want to extend a sincere thanks to everyone involved, our candidates, our media panelists. Literally, we couldn't do it without you. The message we'd like to send home in closing is simple. If you don't vote, don't complain. Thank you very much. My name is Bob Hammersley, and we appreciate the opportunity.